I quit my $200,000 investment banking job when I was just 25 years old because I realized something about money, which is that if it doesn't get you freedom, then it puts you in chains. Once I had that realization, I recognized that I didn't want to be the type of person that was a slave for money my entire life. And so I got off the train before I got too far down the road in my career so that I could prioritize what's meaningful and what's real while still using money as a tool to become free. To introduce myself a little bit here, I'm Pietro Conti, and I'm a first-generation American. My father is a truck driver from Italy. I was raised in the Chicagoland area, a small town about half an hour outside of Chicago, and we didn't grow up with a lot of money in my household. During the Great Recession, times got tough for us, and I remember thinking, even when I was in high school, that I couldn't wait to graduate so that I could make as much money as I could as fast as possible so that I would never have to worry about any money problems. And I was fortunate to get a scholarship to go to the University of Michigan, which is a great business school. But when I was there, I always had a chip on my shoulder because it felt like so many people who went to Michigan and were in the business school came from top 1% families. And that's what I needed to compete against. People who had connections and had family members who already worked on Wall Street that could help them get jobs in highly coveted careers. And so I wanted to prove that I belonged and that I could compete with the best. And investment banking was a calling card for me because it was the only career at 22 years old where I could be behind closed doors, where $100 million decisions were being made by CEOs. I was not making those decisions as an investment banker, but I would at least be in the room. And that idea was just intoxicating for me to be a part of that. And I approached my career as if I could excel in investment banking, then I would be able to sit at the table with anybody in the business world. Now, if you know anything about investment banking, it's that it is notorious for having a brutal work-life balance and an incredibly intense culture. So it is normal for an investment banker to work 80 to 100 hours per week, which you know that mentally going in, but until you actually work 80, 90, 100-hour weeks, you don't really know how intense it's gonna be. And it's definitely one thing to do it once or twice or three times or sporadically, but when that realization sets in that you're gonna be doing this indefinitely for the next 3 years, it takes a toll on you mentally. And so as part of the culture, there's really not many days off that you're expected to have, including weekends, holidays, PTO. I remember one story, maybe a year after I graduated, I went to Las Vegas with some friends, and my friend said that he used 3 days of PTO for the trip. And I looked at him straight up, asked him, "What's PTO?" And we had a good laugh about that. Now I look back on it and think it's funny, but the culture of investment banking is super intense. You're gonna be building an incredible skill set by working with executives at other companies, learning how to build financial models, learning how to sell, marketing, kind of the gambit for what your skill set needs to be in a business place. And you're gonna be working with a lot of the smartest people. These positions are super highly coveted. A lot of the smartest people in the country go to work in investment banking, and it's a really intensive culture, but you build a lot of camaraderie with the people who are in there with you together. But for 3 years, it really is just a grind to push through. So why did I leave? I realized that this path to wealth was going to be guaranteed, but it was just gonna require a ridiculous amount of personal, familial sacrifice that I didn't want to do. And I remember the 1 or 2 times a year that I would go home, I would be stuck working in the kitchen on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, weekends, and my mom would ask me to come in and help bake Christmas cookies, which sounds stupid, but it's just something that I used to do with my mom. And it crushed me to see her face when I had to tell her that I was too busy working to prioritize baking cookies with my mom. I didn't get to go on any vacations. The one vacation that I went on was after 2 years in banking. I went to Hawaii for a week with some friends and had to leave my vacation a day early so that I could fly to Missouri from Hawaii so that I could cover a client meeting, only to show up and realize that the senior people in my company who sent me there were just joking. They thought it would be funny to mess with me and tell me that I need to leave my vacation so that I can cover a meeting in Missouri. And I'm not looking for pity. My story is not unique to a lot of people who did the investment banking analyst program. But when I took a step back and thought about it, there wasn't any amount of wealth or money that would make those experiences worth it to do for the entirety of my 20s, 30s, and beyond. I looked at a lot of the senior people at my company and realized I didn't aspire to be like them. They were good people, right? And all, like, for the most part, nice to me, but they were just always working. And I didn't want to be that person. And so after 3 years of going through this program, when it was time for a promotion to the next level, I quit without anything lined up and decided that I would figure it out. And so what did I do next? I took time off and I didn't have anything lined up, so I had a lot of time to think. I spent some time with family, I recharged, I healed, I learned how to surf, and really just did a lot of thinking. And one of the big things from a corporate perspective that I learned is that you are replaceable. It doesn't matter who you are or how much you think that you've contributed to your company. Within a couple of weeks, they hired someone else to backfill my position, and that group and that company kept humming as if nothing happened. Now, I felt like I sacrificed 3 years of my life for this company, and I barely got a phone call from anybody after I left, asking if I needed help to find a new job. What I thought that I put in, I didn't get back. And that's just a life lesson I think that people get from the corporate space. And so what I realized is that if you don't make decisions for yourself about what you want to do with your career, someone else will do it for you so that you can live their dream. And so I realized that with my time off, I needed to be thoughtful about what my next role was going to be. And I cast a wide net. Before, all I wanted to do was banking and finance. So now that I had some time off, I wanted to cast a wide net and see what else is out there. I interviewed with some private equity firms. I interviewed across the tech space. I interviewed with startups. I interviewed with other companies just to see what else is out there. And what I wanted to do for my next role was to do some meaningful work and build meaningful relationships with the people that I worked with. And so what I realized for meaningful work, right, is work is going to be work no matter what you do. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. And you're always going to want to be at the beach instead of working. But for me, meaningful work was going to be building up new skills that's going to transfer over to across any career or even my life. And so what I found was a role as an M&A investor, which means that my job is to find other companies to buy and put into my company. So think about an acquisition where, say, Amazon bought Whole Foods. The M&A team, which is what I would do from Amazon's perspective, would evaluate how Whole Foods could fit into Amazon, come up with a price for what it would take to buy the company, and then work to get a deal done. That's what I decided I wanted to do for my company, and made the transition over, stayed in finance, but the pay cut was pretty significant at first. But what I realized is that if you can work on building the skills that you want to build and that you think are valuable, you'll eventually become more valuable to your company and will get rewarded as such. And so it took a little bit of time, but now I'm actually making more money at my company than I did when I was in investment banking. And thankfully, I'm doing the type of stuff that I like to do and actually get some respect when it's the weekends or holidays or I need to spend some time with my family. And so even though in the short term it was an ego bruise that, hey, I'm making quite a bit less money than I did when I was doing investment banking, over time, you build up the skills that you want to and get rewarded as such. And I look at my friends who stayed in investment banking and yeah, they're making really good money, but they're still not able to get out for important events with their family or weekends or their significant other. And so here I am now thinking about it and wondering, do they think that it's worth it? And would I have rather been in that position? And the answer is a resounding no, that I am happier now and doing more meaningful work now than I would have if I stuck around in investment banking for the long term. And so through this long, winding, twisting road of my career, what did I learn about money? And the number one thing is that money does not buy happiness. What it should do is buy you freedom so that you can do what it is that you want to do. If you're working and making a lot of money and can't do what it is that you want to do, I don't think that it's worth it. And I don't think that it's a career that you should pursue. I think you want to get to a place where you're doing something meaningful with your career so that you can do something meaningful with your life. And so what you want to do is design a lifestyle that you think would truly be meaningful to you. Try not to think about money and the events that you want to do and the things that you want to do. Now, some of those things will cost money. So if you want to be healthy, you're going to need to spend money on healthy food. You're going to need to spend money at the gym. If you want to be able to go on nice vacations with your family, that will cost money, right? But think about what it is that you really want to do with your life and just kind of design it, right? Think about a regular day. When you wake up, what do you want to do? Envision what you see your life looking like just on a regular day. And then for those couple weeks a year when you want to go on vacation, what does that look like for you? Do you want to fly first class? Do you want to go to a beach in Florida? Do you want to go on the Amalfi Coast in Italy? Those are different trips, but you got to think about what it is that you want to do and what would be meaningful for you. My guess is that life is actually going to be less expensive than you would initially imagine. And so work backwards from there. Once you can imagine what kind of life it is that you want to live, work backwards to see about how much that would cost and what type of career could help fund you to get there. I'm not going to sit here and say that money is the root of all evil and that you shouldn't go out and try to make money, because I don't believe that. I think that all else equal, more money is better than less money, and you should aspire to get enough to buy yourself freedom and live the life that you want to live. And you should work hard. The work that you do should be meaningful. You shouldn't hate going to work every day, but you should work hard and just try to achieve goals. Otherwise, your week is just kind of boring, to be honest. So try and find something that you want to do and build the skills that you need to so that you'll be compensated accordingly so that you can live the lifestyle that you're imagining. So what I recommend doing is evaluate your relationship with money. The way that I think of money is actually like a skill. The same way that fitness or nutrition is a skill that you practice every day. And so that goes from learning how to make money, learning how to save money, learning how to invest it, learning how to spend it, are all skills that you can develop over time. And you can practice with small bits so that you get the hang of it before you start investing incredible sums of money to do it all at once. But I recommend that you think of money as a skill that can be learned and developed, and evaluate your relationship with it and just kind of imagine what it is that would make a meaningful life for you and how money can help you get there. Remember that personal finance is really 20% technical and 80% behavior. So with that in mind, start thinking about what behavioral changes you can make so that you can start to steer your goals towards achieving financial freedom instead of thinking of money as an instrument that'll make you happy.